Here's a question. Is Threads the Twitter killer? Meta's new service garnering 100 million users in under a week, dethroning ChatGPT as the fastest growing platform. But some Twitter investors appear to be making big bets on both platforms. Axios reporting that some of Twitter's biggest shareholders are still invested in Meta. Joining us now is a reporter behind the scoop, Dan Primack, the business editor at Axios. Dan, great to have you with us. I would imagine that for most of these investors, their investment in Twitter and Elon Musk, predates the advent of Threads. So it's hard to really say that they're, making bets on both. It just happens to be that Meta is now competing, launching a competing app.
That's correct. I mean, obviously, Twitter and Facebook, slash Meta have always been competitors in some case, but obviously Meta is a much larger company, much more diverse company. So yeah, these bets obviously predate that. It will be interesting to see if perhaps, given this direct competition, maybe some folks divest of Meta, which is, obviously a public stock. You can do that a lot easier than divesting of Twitter. And there were actually two investors in Twitter who helped Elon, who actually got rid of their Meta stock in Q1 before Threads was even launched.
Yeah, and you got to think that part of that is a rally that we've seen in shares of Meta in the first half of the year, just a rip-roaring rally there. But is there a lot of crossover between those who are invested in Twitter and those who are invested in Tesla? Because for some time, investing in Twitter was a way to make sure that your Tesla investment would work.
There's definitely overlap. There's also some venture capital firms that aren't necessarily still invested in Tesla, who used to, but who are invested in SpaceX or invested in Boring Company, which is another one of Elon Musk's companies. The general philosophy of folks who backed Twitter, and it's a small number, right? It's less than 24 co-investors that we know of in Twitter. The general philosophy seemed to be, we don't know if Twitter is a good investment per se in general, but we trust Elon because Elon's made us money in Tesla or in SpaceX, and so we're going to bet on him more than betting on Twitter per se.
You also didn't want Elon to have to sell stock in order to cover Twitter's debt, so there was another, potential reason for investing in Twitter at the time of the deal. I'm curious, Dan, are you on Threads now, and what's your take in terms of, the rapid rise of growth at this point?
I am on there. I got on there, a day or two after it launched. I think myself and a lot of journalists are kind of unusual use cases, right? I use Twitter, for example, primarily as a work tool. For me, Threads doesn't work like that yet. It's not functional like that yet because of a lot of the features it hasn't yet unrolled, and because it has said, and Adam Mosseri, who runs Instagram, has said that they are not planning to emphasize news or politics, which are kind of some of the biggest use cases of Twitter. But I'm on there. Look, I think a lot of the adoption so far is a bit of a middle finger to Elon and kind of shows some of his real unforced errors, that by being so abrasive and so hostile to a lot of the power users of Twitter, a lot of them have gone to Threads as a bit of a protest against him. And I do think he could maybe try to get those folks back if he's able to recognize the error of his ways, but he's got to do so soon. One of the things that impresses me so much about Threads, you're talking about 100 million users in less than a week. It hasn't gone down. It hasn't slowed down. There haven't been glitches. That's just, I know they have a ton of engineers at Meta, but that's still a remarkable accomplishment.
Right. In terms of advertisers, though, you mentioned the differences. You highlighted the differences between, use cases for both platforms. Do you think it's enough for advertisers to say, we will forego advertising on Twitter and we'll go to Threads?
My guess is most advertisers will do both if the numbers are, still there on both platforms. But certainly one of the big fears or concerns advertisers have expressed about Twitter, and this predates Elon, but it's become, more acute with him in charge, is they don't want their advertisements, they don't want their messages next to what they view as toxic or controversial content. And if news and politics, which kind of spark a lot of the most toxicity, if that is being, if not de-emphasized, at least not emphasized, I think that is going to be something that gives a lot of brands a lot more confidence in where they want to put their money.
Sort of ironic now that Elon has become the poster child for all things that ail social media, and now Mark Zuckerberg is sort of the savior, is the creator of the safe space, when not too long ago he was the poster child.
It's remarkable. And I will say I've been surprised, at least in the early days, and I get it. It's something new and shiny and people get excited. I've seen a lot of media folks who have been on Threads who are kind of extolling the virtue of Threads versus Twitter. I'll say again, just as somebody who comes in the media space, I think there is a bit of a danger here. Facebook/Meta was already the biggest media distributor, or the biggest media company in the world by far. I mean, anyone who works at a company like mine sees the amount of traffic that comes from Facebook versus Twitter, and it dwarfs Twitter. But Twitter, at least by existing, it is an alternative distribution platform. It's a little problematic to me if Meta were to kill it. That just takes another player off the board.